Hello. Super glad to be here. I want to say a brief thank you to everyone who is here, but also ask my staff, wherever he went, to raise his hand. He's way in the back. This is Mauricio Arias. And the reason that I point him out is I hope you'll come visit him at our office and introduce yourselves and make sure that we are in collaboration. Today's event is all about unity, and so I was thinking about our job in the state legislature and my job in particular to unify the Central Coast. I actually represent 3 different counties along the Central Coast, and I really consider this the very best district in all of California, and oftentimes I say in all of the world. And my husband the other day was like, that's hyperbole, and I was like, but we're from the Central Coast. We work damn hard to be here. We are incredibly proud that we live here, and we have a lot to defend and a lot of reasons to be proud. And then when I put this jacket on this morning, we were having another conversation, and he's like, you're wearing your construction orange? And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna brighten up the room. So I hope that you guys have some fun as we're talking today. But my assembly district does include 20% of California's coast, 6,000 plus square miles from the Santa Cruz Harbor to the southern San Luis Obispo County line. And so if we were to play tourist, and I think there's some folks in this room that are probably part of the tourism industry here on the Central Coast, I'll just kind of take you on a trip with me. So we would start up at the harbor, as I recently did. We took a cruise on the O'Neill catamaran and went around the bay up there. You might go wine tasting down in Aptos, hit either Seacliff Beach or Capitola, keep coming down around the Monterey Bay, come to the peninsula, go visit Bruce Delgado and Marina, stop by the Monterey Aquarium, of course, go play golf at Pebble or any one of numerous places to play golf, have some more wine in Carmel Valley, and then if Big Sur was open, as we're trying to get it open, you'd drive all the way down that coast. You'd still be in our district. You'd go to Hearst Castle, and then you'd make a decision if you want to go get even more wine in the Paso region, where there's 400 wineries or more, or you might stay on the coast, come to my hometown where the Morro Rock is, and then keep going. You could go to Bubblegum Alley in San Luis Obispo. You could go to the Pismo Pier. You could go to the Strawberry Festival in Arroyo Grande. But what you couldn't do is you could not go off-roading on the Oceano Dunes, because at that point you'd be in somebody else's district. And so that's really where we end. And but you could drive on the street that leads to the dunes, as people often remind me when I say, those dunes are not mine. And they're like, but the street is, and you should stop people on that street. So there's a little bit of a battle there. But I would say the most special thing about this assembly district, and the most special thing about being in the state legislature, is the people that we get to represent. And if you look around this room, you will see the caliber of people that we get to represent, whether they are from labor, from education, from tourism, their visiting service, serving, whether you have people from local and state and county government. We have incredible people in our portion of California, and we should be incredibly proud of the work we're doing to unify across the Central Coast. So I'm trying to get my one slide here of where I think one of my slides disappeared, but I want to tell you a story. I'm going to leave this here for a minute and tell you a story about what happened when I got into office, because a lot of people ask me, because I'm new, a lot of people ask me what it's like to be in the state legislature. And so a lot of times I joke about that. I'm like, well, there's 62 Democrats, so there's a lot of friendly competition. So I took up boxing when I got up into Sacramento. And then I was like, oh, people are tired of hearing me talk about boxing. So then I started telling them, this is actually a true story. I started telling them, well, I went up to Sacramento and I started drinking because there's so much wine across this region. Actually, this is why, because there's so much wine across this region that I was like, I better get to know the people in my district and the wines they're producing. And so I started drinking. But the real truth of the matter is that it's a huge, huge honor to be a representative for this district. And the reason that is, the thing that hits closest to home for us, is that people really come to us when they need something. They come to us when they're having trouble. They come to us expecting that government should be able to help solve their problems. And so we have this opportunity to get to know people in their real moments and their true selves. And I'll tell you a story. So we had somebody come to the office recently who was about to become unhoused. And she had been dealing with a State Department that had her money, EDD, that you've all heard of and been frustrated with. She could not get the money that she needed to pay her rent and called our office. And for whatever reason, I will attribute it all to the magic of my staff, but this is happening across California. We were able to get a 24-hour turnaround on that. And so in 24 hours, she had $9,000 in her bank account and was able to stay in her home and was able to start getting her life back on track. And as I was reading this text, right, I'm in one meeting, as hopefully you're not doing this. I'm in one meeting, but I'm reading my texts for another thing that I'm doing, right? And so we're so excited because our staffer, and this was Mauricio, actually, not to embarrass him, but he said, he was like, oh my gosh, I just got this woman $9,000. And then my staffer next to me was like, don't tell him, but I just got $15,000 for someone. And it was like, how beautiful is that? When people in your office not only are making a difference, but they're so proud for one another and they're in competition with one another to do an even bigger, even better job. And that's the kind of people that we have across the Central Coast. But when we got into office, I would say within days, the winter storms hit, the atmospheric rivers hit. And we just heard a little bit about all of the nonprofit work that is being done across this amazing Central Coast when it comes to storm recovery. But we went to 20 different locations, and we saw person after person who was experiencing devastating things. I walked through one man's home, and we walked through a foot of water, and his daughter's stuffed animals were floating in the water. And it was so new after that storm happened, and they had no idea what to do. And then we went to places in the north part of the district up here and even more north, where we walked into people's homes and they were just completely unlivable. They were full of mud. There was no way people could go back into where they used to do their daily life activities. And we went and we talked to one woman in particular, and she was covered in mud. She was shivering because that water is so cold. She had a COVID mask on, right, a medical mask, because that's all she had. And that water is dirty, right? And she's just shoveling mud in her mobile home complex, out of her driveway in what used to be the place that she came home to every day after work. And there's a bucket loader there that somebody in the mobile home park had donated. And there are porta potties on the back of a truck because they didn't have water at that time. And so somebody who had a party company brought in porta potties for this situation. And it was this moment of neighbors helping neighbors, this moment of unity. But she looked at me and she said, if you're just here to take a photo and shake hands and you're not actually going to do something, then you shouldn't be here at all. And it was super tough. It's super tough when you get into these kinds of positions and you come in with a good heart and you want to do good, and then someone says the truth to you in that way, in that moment. You really have to take, we all, I would say everyone in this room, myself in particular, we have to step back and ask ourselves, what's our purpose? And what are we going to do about that? And so what I decided to do, I'm brand new in the legislature, we've been there 10 months, I decided to just go tell that story over and over and over and over again. And so I told that story to the Emergency Management Committee. I told that story. I caught the governor one day in the hallway and was like, I have to talk to you. I have to tell you about this. To our speaker's credit, you just heard from our wonderful, wonderful speaker, Assemblymember Rivas. To his credit, he listened to me and did a lot of work in this area. And the results that came out of that, I'll just show you real quick. The results that came out of that, under the speaker's leadership, we got $20 million in direct assistance for flood survivors in Monterey. You can clap for that, please. $20 million for direct assistance for flood survivors here in Monterey County, including for undocumented people. We just presented a check for $1.2 million for Highway 1 at Elkhorn Slough because we know Monterey almost became Monterey Island. And then we passed mobile home residency protection legislation. We extended a program that allows mobile home residents to be able to come together to bring complaints forward to HCD. And then I didn't tell you a story about this Big Sur log jam, but I'll just say very quickly, there was a problem with a number of logs that have been building up for probably 10 years in Big Sur that is eating away at Highway 1 down there. None of us can afford any more closures. So we got after that, and that road jam right now is being cleared, which is huge, huge, huge momentum for this area. So the last thing we did, and is that I think is pertinent here, is we started, out of that experience, we started the Central Coast Legislative Caucus, which is a group of 10 legislators that have come together for the very first time. I see someone clapping. You can clap loud. We started this caucus when I was a teacher. I taught for 21 years. When I was a teacher, I worked with students with disabilities. I worked with students from very, very difficult backgrounds. And what we would see is kids come to school every day from challenging situations. And we kind of would talk about this like, hurt people. And you have to interrupt that at some point. It's our job as public servants to interrupt that at some point. And then someone said to me, yeah, but empowered people empower people. And so we created the caucus, and we came together as a caucus thinking if we're empowered as a caucus, we can empower people across the Central Coast. As you're empowered across the Central Coast, you can empower us in the caucus to uplift the voice of our region, which we absolutely need, because we've got folks in LA, we've got folks in San Francisco, and I love them, but there's a lot of them. There's a lot more of them across this state than there are across the Central Coast, and so we need a critical mass and a critical voice in the state legislature. And so we came together. It very much mirrors the Uplift Coalition that MBEP is part of. The 5 counties that we have mirror the 6 counties in that coalition. And so I just want to end by saying that as you're in this room empowering yourselves today, that our office is here to help you. Our office is here to support you. And we very much hope that you come visit us. We're right at Heritage Harbor. Here's our address. Mauricio's here. And we just welcome your interaction and look forward to working in unity with you. So thank you so very much.